If you feel sort of stagnant in your coaching or creator business and you want to be a lot more productive, actually see some freaking change happen and, grow the business and see things start to take off, but you feel like everything's kind of stagnant and nothing's really working, in this episode, which is actually going to be part one of a 3-part series, I'm going to break down why I think that's happening to you and what you can do to fix it. I know I have felt this way many, many times in my career. I'm just like, dude, I'm waking up, I'm going to the coffee shop, I'm working hard, and then I'm sort of checking to see how things are going, and nothing's really happening. It's like everything's kind of staying the same, and I just don't feel like I'm being super productive. And, like what's actually going on? What's the real problem? And in my experience, for me, it has boiled down to actually 3 different areas. Okay. So, of course, the solutions to problems like this are always going to require some growth from you and some kind of like, you got to accept the bitter truth, so to speak, and grow. That's one thing I've learned, is that nothing really happens outside of personal growth. If you want to get a different outcome, then you need to do something differently than you've been doing. That's been a hard pill for me to swallow, at least. All right, so there are 3 big pillars to turning things around. And in this episode, we're going to talk about pillar number 1. So the first thing that you are bringing to the table when it comes to like this idea of how do I, get more done with less effort? How do I actually see results? The first thing you're bringing to the table is you. And by you, I mean like, okay, you wake up and you grab your backpack and you go off to the coffee shop to work or whatever, and you sit down and you start working. In that moment, on that day, how much energy are you bringing to that work session? Not just energy, but how much focus are you bringing? How much excitement and passion and things like that are you bringing to what you do? That's the first variable that we can play with. If our goal here was to like win a race, like a car race, then what we're talking about right now is leveling up our race car and bringing the best possible race car to the track in the first place, one that is primed and ready to win that race, for you to win the day. And so, some of the advice around this is going to be stuff you've heard before. But my mentor, Brendan Burchard, always says that common sense is not always common practice. The other day, I was feeling kind of in a funk, and I didn't have a lot of energy. And instead of driving to my normal coffee shop to work, I did something different. I drove to the rec center in our neighborhood, and I hopped on the treadmill and I ran for 3 miles. And I don't like running. Treadmills are not that great, but I just felt like I really needed it. And after that, I got a smoothie and I went to the coffee shop. And that was one of the most productive days I've had in a long time. Even though I deleted like over an hour from the work day by doing the exercise and all that, taking that detour, there was just a very noticeable difference in the amount of energy and relaxation and focus like that I had after exercising like that versus on the normal days when I do not. And I thought to myself, I'm like, man, for what I do for a living, sitting at a computer and writing, I'm really leaving a lot of productivity on the table by not moving more often, not exercising. I mean, I do exercise 3 days a week consistently, but it's usually after work. It's usually not before. And so I realized I could move things around, and I could bring a lot more energy to my work sessions in the first place. Another thing that I do that I think helps is I eat a plant-based diet. Most mornings I'm just drinking like a huge green smoothie with tons of plant protein and peanut butter and avocado and spinach, carrot, celery, strawberry, blueberry, oat milk. Like, the thing is super calorie dense, protein, fat. It's like lots of nutrients. On the days when I drink my smoothie, I have noticeably more energy than if I have like a heavier breakfast. And so there's the diet element to this as well. And then there's like the things like, when you're working, are you taking breaks? Brendan Burchard teaches that you should be taking a break every 50 minutes, 50, for about 5 or 10 minutes. I like to take breaks every 30 or 40 minutes. I have ADD, and so it works a little better for me to take them more often. But that will allow you to sort of keep recharging your batteries instead of burning out trying to work for 2 or 3 hours straight with no break, and then you're just gassed and you can't work anymore for the rest of the day. You end up being less productive overall if you do it that way. And so those are some keys. Well, there's also like focus, right? Which means when you sit down to do something, are you staying on one task, or are you giving into those impulses to check social media, to check your phone, to check email, to be in response mode? I was at a coffee shop today. I saw a lot of people on Slack. Presumably they have jobs where they have to talk to people, like their teammates on Slack. But I just saw them just messaging. It was just like, you could tell they were just like kind of waiting for messages and replying and waiting back. It's just like that type of work. If you're an entrepreneur, is usually not needle moving, waiting for people to reach out to you so you can reply back to them. It's like, what's about what, are they, you hoping that you're going to get an email that says you won the lottery or something? Like, no, most of that stuff, unless it's like a prospect that wants to work with you or has already, is saying yes to paying the invoice, and you're probably not directly going to make a lot of money from replying to anything. And so I always shut out the first at least 2 hours of every day to do deep project-based work that moves the needle. We're going to talk about that more in a future episode on this series, but really I just want to say that you want to make sure you don't give into distractions throughout your day. The last thing that is important here and is often overlooked is how passionate and excited are you about what you're doing in the first place. This is deep, and this could involve a pivot in your business, but it's important. I know that for me, when I was coaching in real estate, and I had been for like 4 years, I was burned out and I was sick of running the numbers on rental properties, and I wanted to do something different. And if I had, and even if I went running for 3 miles and, and drank my smoothie and stayed focused, it wouldn't have made a difference, because I really had just lost passion for the niche that I was in. And I just needed to serve a different person and help them get a different outcome based upon the stuff that I was excited about then, at the current moment. And so for some of you, you might be doing things in your business that are just not really what you want to be doing. And it's more like maybe you think you have to do it as out of necessity or a means to an end. In my experience, that you're kind of cruising for a dead end if you're doing that, because even if you have success, it won't matter, because if you don't have energy for it, then you'll just want to burn the whole thing down and sabotage it. I mean, I shut down a real estate coaching business that was doing around 25 grand a month because I was like, I got to do something that lights me up. This ain't it. And so that's another thing to make sure you have aligned. And if you have all that, if you're taking care of your physical body and you're staying focused while you work and you're working on work that you really enjoy doing, then you are checking all the boxes of the first stop in our little productivity journey here on this series. You are showing up with a polished, fine-tuned race car that is going to fly and give you every chance of winning the race, of being more productive. And so that's what I've got for you guys in this episode. In the next episode, we're going to talk about the second thing that really makes a difference in terms of making sure you're productive. Because if you just show up and you have that race car and you're flying around, it will only get you so far, and you can actually be working on things that don't make a difference with tons of energy and excitement. Lots of people do this. So we're going to talk about in the next episode how to identify the most needle-moving activities for your business to apply all of that energy and excitement to. Thank you guys for tuning in. Join the Ink to Income newsletter. It's free. You can use the link in the description. You'll get an email from me around once a week with a long form blog post that shares something valuable around growing a creator business and using writing as the vehicle. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next episode where we go for part 2. Talk to you soon.